Mic test 1 2. Mic test 1 2. Welcome to the show. The show.
I'm no professional. Hello.
Can you hear her? Can you hear her?
He gave me a thumbs
Could you turn
up.
it down a little? Maybe like a little.
Hello.
A sign from the booth. We are live. Welcome to Arizona Gives Day. This is the Wilcox Theater and Arts. WTA is the initials we'll use. This is our version of how to raise a little bit of money for nonprofits, for our nonprofit, Wilcox Theater and Arts. You can see we're big time here. If you look in the background, we have a phone bank down here with some volunteers taking some phone calls and for your donations. But this is what today is about, is supporting the Wilcox Theater and Arts. Actually, Arizona Gives Day is nonprofits all across the state of Arizona, but this is the one here in Wilcox that we're trying to support. I'll say it right quick. The phone, 520-766-3340. Now, my name's Eddie Browning. I'm the president of the board of directors for the Wilcox Theater and Arts, and I've been asked to be the host for this little mini telethon, but I did not want to take on this challenge by myself. So I went out, we did a highly recruited talent search to find a co-hostess with us, and it is my pleasure to introduce Miss Patina Thompson will help me with this event. Hi, Patina.
Hello, Eddie. Thank you for inviting me.
It's my pleasure. My pleasure. So, all right, let's start with some questions. What do you know about the theater?
Oh, well, I am a fairly new board member, but I know the theater has been open since 1918. Now, there was a year in there, 2011, when it was closed down for exactly 1 year, reopened in 2012, and going strong still today. So I think that's quite impressive for our town and our community. What do you think of that?
I think that's great. The only other time it was closed, and it was forced closure, was during the COVID years, but we still kept the doors open, and we sold popcorn
Yes.
during the COVID. So we didn't show movies right then. I heard we had a puppet show of some sort.
And nothing beats movie theater popcorn. I mean, you can't go wrong with that.
No, it's worth the drive up just for that. But we're glad those days are gone, and we're now showing movies again. And the idea today is to raise a little money to keep these things going. What's really kind of cool about the theater is we do a lot of movies for sure, but we have lots and lots of other activities that go on with the Wilcox Theater and Arts. So let's talk about that a little bit.
Yes, there's programs for any age or ability and any time of the day, really. So there's art. I need to know the names. I don't know the official names. There's art or maker space, which is for the younger kids, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And then Miss Kathleen does another art program for anybody else in the community.
Yeah. The art programs, I got a little list here. I got a cheat sheet.
You do.
But there's like Cat's Corral, and that's what we were talking about, making the art stuff out of
Yep.
old-time jewelry. But there's art programs for, like, say, every age group, from the young kids, 4th grade down, and then there's a session for, like, 5th through high school, and then there's sessions for adults. So there's all kinds of art stuff that's going on. And then one of the really popular programs that they came up with is Paint Night. Have you been to a Paint Night?
I haven't been to one yet, but they're always full. I've tried a couple of them, and they were full. So I love to see that.
Yeah, that's, there's a tutor there that can help walk you through. It's not really paint by numbers, but it's they do really good work.
Sometimes there's wine involved, maybe.
It
And
always
some of
helps to
those-
have wine.
So paint by number would be good.
Okay. Or-
After some
is
wine.
that a 3 or a 5?
There's the STEM and STEAM programs as well that are offered to the youth in the community. And I know there's a calendar next door with a lot of summer events going on. The whole summer months are booked up with programs that are very cool.
Yeah, there's a calendar on the wall, and I mean literally up on the entire wall of all the different things that are going on. And I guess really one of the really highlights of the summer programs is Wham, the music, and they show a movie, and then they do all kinds of kids games. This is really a popular event for the ranchers. Did you know that?
I didn't know that.
It is.
Why?
You know why?
No,
Because
why?
almost every year when Wham takes place, it rains.
That's very true.
And you know how the ranchers, they like the rain. And ranchers never can get enough rain.
Never enough rain.
Farmers can never get the rain at the right time.
Right.
So we're here to announce that Wham is June 1st.
So we'll
So
get
make
rain.
your plans accordingly, because it's going to rain. All right. Do we hear the phones ringing? Yes, I see they're on the phones
right.
talking to people. Just remember, I need to tell you to call in at 520-766-3340. You can talk to one of these young ladies, volunteers that are here. You know, we try to set a goal on how much money we wanted to raise for this, and I think with the national or the state organization, they set a goal of $10,000. Last year, we raised about $3,800, so we're trying to at least double that. I forgot to tell them.
Matching funds.
Tell them that.
So for the first $1,000, we have anonymous donors who have donated already, and we'll match those funds up to $1,000. So we need to try to get that goal accomplished first, and then keep going from there. So any of you that want to call the number, 766-304, no,
3340.
3340.
Say that again.
766-3340.
All right, one more time.
766-3340.
Perfect. So call in and help support this great organization. How long have you been on the board of directors?
I want to say about 2 years.
About 2 years?
Going on.
Very good. What else can we talk about? Some of the things that are going to go on today, this little live segment will last about 10 minutes. I think you'll probably give me some sort of a countdown as to how much more time we have here to fill. And then we're going to go to some highlight videos that you can watch. Some of the things going on by a video, so it's not just us here talking about it. So it's everything from how you build a painting, how you draw a face. There'll be some testimonials, and then we'll come back and we'll and have another little live segment, and we'll begin to give updates, see if anybody's reached into their pocket to help support WTA. So there'll be lots of stuff for you to look at and to listen to. We're going to go for about an hour and a half this morning from 9 a.m. until 10:30. And then we will take a break, and then we will be back at 4 o'clock, and we'll go from 4 till 5:30. That's when we'll be able to do lots of updates, see how we're doing with our money dollars. So you're going to learn a lot about the theater today.
That's right. There's also a link on the Facebook page. We know a lot of our community members may have moved away, but you can still donate, because I believe, like myself, we have good memories of the theater growing up, and our age bracket, shall I say, is maybe has the ability to donate. So we hope that you can follow the YouTube link, and there's a link on the Facebook page, and you can donate from afar.
Very good. We would very much like for you to stay in touch with the theater. So we'll take it away with the videos.
It's kind of a meeting place for all people of all ages. One thing I really like about the theater is that not only movies bring people together, but they have projects and different programs.
everyone, and welcome to the Creative Corner. I'm Amanda, and I'm going to teach you how to build a painting like this from the ground up. Today we're going to get a little more creative, and I'm going to show you how to build a painting from the ground up. So you have a bunch of paints and you don't know where to begin when you're painting. This walkthrough will show you the steps you need to take to start your painting the best way. To start my project, I'm going to use a pencil and I'm going to draw on my subject. So I'll draw what I want to paint and then we'll move forward from there. So fast forward, da da da. So now that I have my subject drawn onto my canvas, the first thing that I want to do with my paint is I'm going to fill in my background. I don't want to touch my pencil drawings yet. I want to make sure that the background's filled in so that when I do the background, it's not covering what I've already painted. So I'm going to fill in the background and then we'll move on. All right, now that I have my background filled in, you can see where I've covered some of my pencil marks. That's okay because I know where I want things placed. I'm going to let this background dry so that we're not bleeding our colors into each other. So as soon as it's a dry, matte color, we'll be back. Hi everyone and welcome back. My paint is dry, so let's move on. I have my table painted on. I used dark brown and black and added a little purple for more natural touch. I am going to do my vase. So to do that, I am going to start with the darker areas and then work in the lighter areas. While you're blending your colors, you want to take your brush, you can get it a little wet with water, and just go over where you want it blended until it looks the way that you want it to. So now that I have my vase done, I'm going to be doing the stems and then I'll work in my flowers. I added a little brown into my green to make it a natural green color. There are some pre-mixed colors you can get that have that shade. I made my own. As you can see, we've literally built our painting from the ground up. So the background, and then we'll start working in the foreground. So right now I'm just going to add in all of my stems. Now that I have all of my stems on, I'm going to start adding in my flowers. As I start my flowers, you can see that there's multiple layers in these flowers, so I'm going to start with my darker areas first. Now that I have my darker areas, I'm going to do my lighter areas and I will work in between. Now that I have my flowers put together, I'm going to add in some highlights on just straight white, and I'm going to throw a little in there to make it look more lively. So next, I'm going to add in my smaller flowers. It's just going to take white, and I'm going to dot it over some of those stems. So now that I have have the main part of my painting done, I'm just gonna take some time and add a little more details into my painting, make it feel a little more like me. For anyone who'd like to try this at home, I would just throw paint on a canvas and see how it goes. One of the best ways to build paintings is obviously with a clear thought on what you want to do, but if you don't have any ideas but you really want to paint, just start and see where it goes. So the very last thing that I have to do on this painting is sign it, and you can decide if you want to sign it on the front or the back. I have my own special signature. You can put the date, anything that you'd really want. I would advise using a very small brush to do the signature so that it's easier to handle. So I'm going to sign it down in this right corner. This is just a run through on how to build your painting from the ground up, starting with your original idea, drawing it on, doing your background, and slowly adding in your content. Some quick things to remember would be to use some purples for your shadowing to create a more natural look, waiting until the end to put your main product on, and adding some original flair makes it a little more personalized and your painting. Post your original paintings down below in the comments. We'd love to see what you've come up with. Amanda out.
Hey guys, it's Josh again from Wilcox Theater and Arts. I'm excited to share with you a few videos on how to draw the human face to make a portrait. In our video today, we're going to look at how to proportionally map the human face. There's a few tips and tricks I'd like to show you, so let's get started. Okay, so proportioning the face. Before I start drawing anything, faces come in all different shapes and sizes. Before I put anything down on paper, do not take this as an ultimate guide to drawing any sort of face, because everybody's face is slightly different in size. These proportions are good to know because you can reference them anytime you're trying to draw a subject. But as you can see on this paper right here, there are actually about 7 different general face shapes that people tend to have. So it's important to know that these exist so that you can refer to them whenever drawing from life or from a photograph. But just wanted to show you guys that so that you are aware and can look for these things in your own drawing. I'm using a drawing pencil, a 4H, to just map it out. I'm going to be using a 4H drawing pencil and a charcoal pencil here today. Usually if I were actually drawing this, I would use a little bit more straight charcoal, but we're going for a little bit more detail in our drawing today, so pencil and charcoal pencil are my go-to for that. So to start drawing the face here, start with sketching out a little bit of just a circle, big circle, and this is going to be the top of the skull, top of the head. Just get some real gestural stuff. We're going to be doing a lot of erasing to try and get any sort of realistic proportion. You never want to commit to any lines when you're drawing from life or trying to draw to make things realistic or just trying to draw in general, because if you make a mistake, it's no big deal. So our face is going to be looking directly at us. For the purpose of these videos, all of our drawing is going to be done looking straight on. And you have to take that into consideration, because whenever you're drawing the face looking slightly to the other way and whatnot, you'll have to adjust your proportions. But when drawing a face, make sure you cut right down the middle make sure you connect your top circle here down to about the chin. Faces generally, no matter what face shape they are, slant down from the top of the skull down to the chin, like so. So I made this line down the middle here, and there's no real way I can tell you guys to measure that. Just try and take a guess about how long your face of your subject is going to be. One of the big things that I'm going to harp on a lot here is no matter how much you're relying on these proportions, make sure that you just reference the subject. Reference, reference, reference. Keep looking at them and make sure it actually looks like them and not like, we'll call this guy John Doe. Don't make him look like John Doe, make him look like whoever you're drawing. And like we say, a lot of erasing, I'm just being real light here with my pencil. Let's say that's about where we want them to be here. And I'm going to start putting in some other measurements. Okay, so we have the perfect circle here, wherever the tip of your chin is, about a perfect circle. And right down the middle of the head, we'll draw another line. Try and find the middle as best as you can. Halfway between the top and the bottom of the face there. And that is where the eyes align on a face. Okay, and before I move on with any more of these measurements, let's start committing to a line here. Because we do have the general outline of the head that I want, I can start committing to one of these many, many, many gestural lines to just make a line that outlines the head and our proportions. So let's go ahead and do that. I want to close this neck up, put it in here. Want that jaw to be a little stronger. Put that out there. All right. Erase, erase, erase. And then so that you guys can see kind of what's going on a little bit better, I'm going to darken up the lines that I've committed to. And one thing also to remember here is we are drawing a realistic figure here. And so mapping out this drawing and getting proportions correct, it can be important to sketch in these lines. As long as you remember to erase them when you're finished, so that the subject looks realistic. Because nobody is outlined in a dark black outline. It just doesn't happen. So that's the outline. I'm going to leave the guides rather light because I know for sure I'm going to want to erase those relatively quickly. So now we have the head here, the neck, the chin, skull thing, whatever. Halfway down we have this line, and now halfway between the middle line and the very bottom we put another line, and that will be the bottom of the nose. And then about 2/3 of the way up between this line and the next one, we're going to put another line, and that's about, and remember all of this is about, this is approximate. This is about where the line of the mouth is. Okay. And now let's start with our eyes. Eyes are important measurements in the whole of a person's face. And you'll start to figure out why as continue on here. Just making a slight adjustment. Okay. So the eyes are about halfway between this middle spot and the edge of the face, approximately. And so to reference that, put a little dot here as a reference point. That's about right. This head's a little tall, I just realized that. This is why you don't want to commit to lines. So you can erase and make sure your subject is accurate here. Okay, yes. So we have that reference point there. And for the sake of just mapping this out, I'm just going to draw like a very, very, very stylized little reference of an eyeball. Because then we're going to use it to illustrate a point. Okay, so here's our little stylized eye. It's about approximately going to be that big. And this is all a quick approximation of all of this stuff. And honestly, I'm outlining this a little bit more than I would drawing an actual subject or doing a self-portrait or something. But all of these measurements still hold true whenever you're drawing a portrait. Okay, so there are those two creepy little eyes. And very creepy. And even they're actually a little too far apart. In fact, to help me kind of measure this out here, the measurements for the eye line here, you have about an eye's width between the edge of the eye, or between the two edges of your two eyes, I guess is how you would say it. So let's say that this here, this is one eye width here. And then you have a second eye width here, approximately. So that's where the eyes would go. And then it's about 1/2 of an eye to the end of the face. Okay? Final thing to do here is the ear, we note, starts about the top of the eye and ends about the bottom of the nose. So that's what those lines are for. And so here is our complete, quick little map of a human face. All these lines are there for us to, as reference points, as we continue to add detail, we can ensure now that things will be somewhat proportionally correct. And again, I cannot stress this enough, this is not universal. When drawing someone's face, this is an important reference to have, but always remember.
Here today is Bettina Thompson.
Hi.
And we're here to talk about fundraising efforts for the theater. So this is Arizona Gives Day. We've been at this about 25, 30 minutes, and I think we have our first total. Where are we?
We have $400 so far, and that match will be another $400, so we're at $800.
All right, so we're off and rolling and got a good start here. Just a reminder, there's lots of ways to give. Obviously, you can call in at 520-766-3340. You can go to the website.
Yep.
And then we're also going to invite you to just come down to the theater on Railroad Avenue. Come in. I think we have
Donuts, popcorn smells good, tastes good, and we're here all day, so you can come in anytime.
Yeah, you can come anytime during the day. Somebody will be here to accept that little donation. And we just want to remind you, every little bit helps. Oh, look, we've had a jump.
Updated, $499.
All
Good.
right.
So we're at our match.
Yeah. So
Reached our first goal.
We've reached our first goal. All right. Thank you, whoever did that. That's
Yes.
the interesting part about this. It's really, what's the word if we don't tell them who it is?
Anonymous.
Anonymous. I was just tongue-tied there. I didn't know unanimous.
Yeah.
You can do it either way. Again, we're a movie theater with lots of other activities. I think they were sharing with us that they're trying to count how many different programs and things that are going on at the theater. They came up with 35 or 36 things other than just showing movies.
Right.
But we do have some movies. Movies is our bread and butter. Do you know what's playing
The
today?
movies playing today are Godzilla vs. Kong and Ghostbusters. And then next week will be Godzilla vs. Kong and a very scary looking movie called Imaginary, which I don't know. It's got a teddy bear. It's creepy, but it's supposed to be good. So
Yeah, if
for
you
the
like horror movies, this
Yeah.
is the one to come see.
I won't be at that one.
No. We appreciate everything that's been done. And remember, we got these volunteers working the phones in the back. You know, we have Peter that's running the control booth that's giving us signals on how much time we have left to talk. Bettina, I thank you for coming down
Sure
and helping
thing.
with this. It's just a great cause. There's lots of good things going on here. I think the next part of the segment, they're going to talk about some testimonials and a little bit of more artist, the live on stage. That's just another thing that we've been doing here is where we bring in artists, probably roughly one a month, and they have a performance in our small theater, which is in the old palace. We'll talk a little more later about our new building that's going to be put up, and that's where these live artists will come and be able to do some things there. But we'll talk more about that, the new building and the expansion plans on our next segment.
Yeah.
But any other advice for people today?
I wanted to mention how many programs, not just movies, that the theater has that reach out to all facets of the community. And our staff is incredible here. They're so very talented, young people, very invested, and just very talented. So if you haven't met them, come down and meet them. No donation is too big or too small. One neat thing about the online link is that you can go in and do a one-time donation or a recurring donation. So we talked about how $100 may seem like a lot to an individual, but if you could budget or afford to do a $10 donation per month, then that adds up to $120, which one-time donation or recurring helps us year-round. So we have programs year-round that benefit everybody, and supporting local is so very important.
It is important, and we have some people that write a check every month for $10, and like I said, it all adds up, and so there's a way that you can be supportive. The other thing is, every now and then, just come to the movies.
Yes, supporting the arts, because music and arts are those programs that always seem to get cut, and they're so very important. So
Yeah, that's some of the things
support.
that we've done here is reached out to some of the school systems and brought art to them. We're working to expand even on those thoughts. So lots of stuff going on. Just encourage you to, this is a great place, a great organization to be able to support with your tax dollar
What's that
donations.
phone number, Eddie?
Phone number is 766-3340.
Correct.
And goodbye. Have a great rest of the morning.
Thank
We'll
you
be
so
back
much.
shortly.
everything else it's just insane, and that's all floating in my brain all day. I feel like my brain is just chaos all the time right now because I'm thinking about all the things I have to do.
Yeah. Is this something that you kind of had your eyes set on for a long time, or was it like, oh, I'm getting good, and now I'm getting noticed, and oh, now it's my job?
I definitely really wanted to be an actress when I was younger. I wanted to be in film, and I've done some film work, and I've been in some independent films. So that's still a dream of mine, but that's definitely where I thought I was going to go. You know, I wanted to be an actress, and I wanted to be, you know, or on Disney Channel. I wanted to be a Disney Channel star when I was like 5.
Didn't we all?
Yeah. And then, you know, wanting to go into that world was my big dream. And then I didn't really think that I was good enough to be a musician for a really long time. I was in choir, and I taught myself instruments, and it was really just a cathartic, emotional thing for me until I was about 16 years old. I played my first coffee shops, open mics, started playing in bars, and I really enjoyed it. And when those things started to be more successful and I started to get better at it, it became more of a dream, you know? I just didn't really think I was good enough for a really long time.
Yeah. What kind of made you believe in what broke that, like, self-doubt?
I think it was definitely, I gained confidence the more that I performed in front of people, the more that I got better. And I definitely did not start out amazing, you know, it took time. And I'm still growing and learning. And I think it was just when something goes really well, you know when something goes really bad, and you know when something goes really well. And the more that those moments where a song goes really well and somebody comes up to you after the show and they're like, wow, you know, that song meant a lot to me, or brought me to tears, or, you know, thank you for performing that song. And those moments and realizing, you know, hey, I'm doing this and meaning something to these people, and people are relating to it, and I'm connecting. And, you know, maybe I made a few flubs in that song, and I played the wrong chord in that song, or messed up in this way, but I nailed that song, and it felt really good. And I feel like if I can just get better, maybe I can do that for a whole show. And, you know, almost all the songs will be really good. And it just made me more confident and wanted to keep trying and keep getting better. And I started out not being that good, so I got used to making mistakes on stage, you know, and working through that to get to the other side of it. And so I think I've seen that growth and that it's possible.
Yeah.
And so I know that I can get to where I want to go. It just takes time.
When you're on stage and you do mess up, how do you play it cool? Like, what's that like?
It's hard. I think you just have to be okay with laughing at yourself and acknowledging it. I think the most awkward thing is when people make a huge mistake and then pretend like it didn't happen, and then their face turns red, and then everybody feels awkward, and the audience feels awkward, and there's just this collective awkwardness. And I think one of the biggest things about it is just acknowledging it, even if it's with a little laugh, or, you know, making it something that you and the audience are like, oh yeah, this just happened. That's okay.
I think I've mentioned it before on the podcast. Like, when you kind of get to put out your own insecurities at front, like when you're the one to address it, literally everyone is just, they can't hold it over you anymore. So it's just like, haha, we just shared a little moment. Look at that.
Yeah, exactly. And it makes you human.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So going, like, from not being this your job to this being your job, what would be some stuff you would tell someone wanting to get started who wants this to be their job?
I think one of the biggest things I've seen in the industry in both music and film is that there are people who believe in themselves right away, and they put in the work behind themselves. And then there are people who don't believe in themselves enough. They want to do these things, but they don't think that they're good enough. And so they wait, and they wait, and they wait, and they wait, and they use their time, all of that energy inside them, supporting other people instead, and being on the sidelines. And I think the most important thing you can do is to take the risk of believing in yourself, because you're putting in that effort and that time anyway, whether it's for yourself or for somebody else. So you might as well be learning and growing as an artist yourself, and believing in yourself, and putting that time and that energy and that money and all of that effort behind your own dream. Because then in 10 years from now, instead of being, like the most amazing support in the world, you'll be the most amazing you in the world, you know? So I guess that would be my advice.
That's some strong advice for sure. Because I've seen that a lot, especially like I've known a lot of people who say, I really want to, but, and then there's a list of things. And
Yeah.
then it's like, well, if I help you do X, Y, and Z, well, then will you do it now? And they're like, I don't know. But once you do kind of see someone being like, you know what, I'm just going to try it, see what happens.
Yeah.
Amazing things happen.
Exactly. Well, and if you think about it, there's so many things. Like, I think we hold ourselves accountable to this really high standard, and we think, oh, we can't be a musician unless I'm at least this good. You know, I'm not as good as X, Y, Z, so I couldn't be a musician. But then you think about, like, there's people out there who are just barely starting, but they're out there and they're putting themselves out there, even though, you know, maybe it's not very good. Maybe they mess up 20 times, but they're out there, and the only difference is that they're believing in themselves and they're taking that risk right away, you know? And I think you gotta take that jump, and you gotta do it. I have a friend who I really believe in, and she's a writer, but her whole life she's been doing other jobs because she doesn't believe that she could be a writer, you know? And she's so good, and it's just about taking that, and that step is hard. So find a way to make the step, and it's really surprising to me when you do take that step and things start falling into place, because it's, you know in your gut what you're supposed to be doing, and it's just really hard to, the unknown is hard, and the idea of possible failure is hard, but I guess once you've failed enough times, then it's not so scary anymore. Like, failure isn't that bad, you know? Failure means that you tried, and failure means that you believed in yourself enough to try. And there, I was reading something about confidence and how to build confidence, and there's this thing called like 100 days of rejection, and that you just go around and you ask people ridiculous things that they have to say no to, so you get used to the idea of rejection, and it becomes easier to be confident because rejection isn't so scary anymore. And I think that's part of it too. It's just the fear of rejection and failure, because those are scary things, but yeah, once you get past those things, all you have is the possibility of something beautiful.
I see a lot too is a lot of people, they are definitely afraid to even put in the first try, because they're worried that like that first failure will end the future.
Yeah.
But what I've noticed is, like, especially like when I was getting started in graphic design and definitely video, like at the time you do something and sometimes designs just don't connect with people. And that's also another thing about creativity as a living is it's super subjective.
Totally.
But like some things don't connect with people, and other times like it is objectively bad. Let's say like the video like is shaky, it's out of focus, like you literally can't see anything. The design is oversaturated, you can't read what it says, like whatever. But the second you kind of get after that one, it's immediately like you then know what to do next time.
Absolutely.
And some people give criticism way better than others. And there's a way to take, like, I hate it, or you could do this better in better ways. But it's kind of, making the first failure is actually a good thing, because the second you do it, you realize like, oh, well, I'm still alive, so that's fine.
Well, and I think as a species, we are wired to focus on negative things, because that means something needs to be fixed. And so our brains, even if you receive like 100 compliments and then one negative comment, your brain is only going to focus on that negative comment. Yeah. So you have to sort of reteach your brain to celebrate the positives. Like, okay, maybe the video was shaky and oversaturated, but what I said in the video was really good, and and my confidence was really good, and like learning how to accept the positives and the negatives and not just the negatives is a really hard thing to do, but it's something that I'm working on too, because I do that after shows. I'll think about all the little things that I did wrong, and I missed that note, or I said the wrong thing, or I shouldn't have done this, and instead of saying, oh, this thing was great and these things went really well and I did this right, and it's a challenge.
It is a challenge for sure. I think as artists, whether you draw, paint, play music, make videos, whatever, it's really about like rolling with the punches and understanding that one mistake is not the end of everythth. Yeah. So, well, thank you so much for sitting down with me. Where can the audience find you?
I'm everywhere. If you can spell my name, Maiah WYNNE. You can find me anywhere online, Facebook, Instagram, Spotify, YouTube. I'm even on TikTok now. I'm really bad at TikTok. Man. It'll probably disappoint you. I'm also really bad at Twitter, but I'm there. So if you want to see my horrible tweets or boring TikTok account, find me.
I hope you get 1 million followers from this.
Me too.
Well, I'm excited for your show tonight, and thank you again for sitting down with us.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
And cut.
Woo!
Nice. That was a good one.
That was really good. Good stuff. Thank you.
Thank you.
Watch Disney. Hi all, it's Gary again, and we are going to do a new movie review. We are going to do it on the movie Onward. Okay? It was recently released in the theater, and it is now on VOD thanks to the stupid virus. Well, to start off with, Rotten Tomatoes gave it an 87 and an average of 7.3 out of 10. And audience, the people that went and actually saw the movie when they came out and got polled, all of them, it was a 95 with a 4.1 out of 5, give or take. I went into watching the movie thinking it was just going to be a kind of movie. I loved it. I truly, truly loved it. Pros, let's get into that first. It's a PG movie, makes it great for everybody to go see. The main actors, Chris Pratt, Tom Holland, and Julian Louis-Dreyfus, they did a wonderful job as voice acting. Chris Pratt and Tom Holland, oh my gosh, they synced well together. You can tell their time in Marvel doing superhero movies together. You could see the bond that they got and did acquire came out in these two characters of the brothers. Comedy. I liked the comedy in this. The rhythm to the scene flows, what they call it, they were really well chalked up and done. The jokes. Now, the jokes actually in this movie are for all ages. If it's your 5 to 7-year-olds, there's jokes for you. If you're an adult, there's jokes for you. You'll even like the 5 to 7-year-old jokes. Mixing fantasy with the tech. They did a really good job on premise of starting the movie and explaining how there was magic, and it gets into why they needed to go to tech and how magic sort of kind of disappeared. It was a nice way of mixing old world and fantasy with new world, our type of version world. Next up, animation. I thought the animation was very much on par with some movies like Monster Inc. and Toy Story 4. One of the really cool things is I was stuck more sometimes watching the background of the movies than I was the actual movie. I thought some of the scenes and the stuff in the background was really cool, and they even had 3 or 4 references to other movies in it. I'm not going to tell you, you're going to have to go watch them. Sorry. The finale, we'll get to that. The finale is probably one of the better parts of the whole movie. It's fun, it's unexpected, and it pulls your heartstrings. Now we get to the bad part. Negative parts of the movie. Concept. Oh my gosh. Concept is really good, but the narrative on it, oh my gosh. Halfway through the movie, I already had figured out what was going to happen. It is so predictable for me. And because of that, the movie felt a little too safe. I like going to movies, especially the Pixar ones, knowing that things can happen. In this one, the story was just a little predictable, so for me, it was a little safe. I'm not sure what it is for you. You'll have to watch it. If you agree, you agree, and if you don't agree that it was predictable, awesome. That means you enjoyed the movie. Okay, that part's over. Overall, I enjoyed the movie. I thought it was good.
Back, it's 10 o'clock-ish, and we are at the Arizona Gives Day live telethon. We're trying to raise some money specifically for our favorite nonprofit here in Wilcox Theater and Arts. So we'd like to invite everybody to come down and make a donation in person, or you could call in, and that phone number is 766-3340. So I think we're trying to have an update on the amount of money we've raised so far. So where
Yep.
are we?
Last I saw was $764. So I misspoke last time in saying that we had met our match. So we're getting there. So we're trying to get up to that $1,000, and that'll then be matched. So thank you, and we're getting closer.
We're getting closer and closer. $764 times 2 right now. So that's pretty cool.
Right.
We want to talk really briefly in this little segment about some of the things we're doing. We work with other organizations, organizations like the Cowboy Hall of Fame, like the Wilcox Historical Society, like the Rex Allen Museum. I think some of the videos you're going to see in our next section are videos that were done, I think specifically working with the Cowboy Hall of Fame and the Rex Allen Museum. So look forward to that. And we also want to talk about our building.
Correct. Wilcox Heritage Center.
Yeah, we are doing an expansion. The board of directors made a decision probably 2 years ago, 3 years ago to expand. A lot of people ask the question, okay, I've been to the movies, and when I came, there was only 5 people there. What in the world are you doing building a third theater, third screen? Well, the way the movie industry works is all of the good movies are released in 2 periods, one in the summer and one at Christmas. And so when all of those movies are released, because we only have 2 screens and we're obligated to show movies for 2-3 weeks and sometimes
At a
even
time,
4,
yeah.
some of those blockbusters that are being released, we cannot book. So that's what will allow us to do. But what we're going to do is build that building with a stage so that we can then do a community theater.
Right.
Years and years ago, we talked about community theater. Wilcox can't do a community theater, every night like they do at the Gaslight in Tucson, but we could certainly do a couple of them a year. And how cool would that be?
That'd be so neat. And it can be used for so many things. Meetings, it sounds like. I mean, really customizable, I guess, if you will, for different events. And the theater already hosts those live concerts we talked about that are quite popular and sell out. So there's a lot of musical artists and guests that come already, and this can just hold more people. And like Eddie mentioned about the movies, when I came on the theater board, I didn't realize those inner workings of, people always ask, why don't we have this movie? But it is. There's a process they have to follow, and if a new one comes out, you still have to run the older ones you already signed up for. So it's fascinating, but they're kind of they do really well for the I guess production companies that we have to work with. So
For sure.
we're at their mercy.
Yeah, and running movies like this in a small town is really difficult. There's only X number of people that are going to attend the movies anyway. Well, week 1, we'll have pretty close to a full house. Week 2, we'll have about a half a house. And week 3, well, everybody that wanted to see the movie, seen the movie. And so the attendance on week 3 is down some. So we make all of our money on the week 1 and week 2. So we're really trying to expand that. We're trying to make our paint night studios and our makerspace studios where they're just geared for that kind of activity. So the building fund, a lot of the stuff that we're trying to raise money for is to finalize our obligations for that. We did get a large grant, and just think about it, guys. We are going to spend, and we're going to have a $2 million building project
Wow.
on Railroad Avenue in Wilcox, Arizona.
That's neat.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So when you're donating, you're helping make those kinds of things happen.
Right.
Again, we're talking about 36 different programs. We did try to do a count to figure out how many people do we serve, and the best count that we could come up with was about a little over 15,000 people come through our doors for a variety of different things. Ooh, look at
That's
that.
impressive. All right, we're up to $870 in donations.
So it's slowly climbing. So we appreciate everything that's been done out there. We'll break away from now. We'll have those videos with the Hall of Fame stuff, and then we'll be back one more time for this morning session about 10:30 to wrap up. Thank you, everybody, and you head to the videos. Thanks.
To be selected by your peers to become a member of the Wilcox Cowboy Hall of Fame is a special honor that pays tribute to a way of life, a cowboy culture that has been passed down from generation to generation, has permeated into many walks of life. No matter your occupation, we are all cowboys at heart.
I was inducted into the Cowboy Hall of Fame was one of the biggest honors that I've ever had the privilege of being awarded to. Glad to be associated with this bunch of fellas who are also the members of the Cowboy Hall of Fame. I've known some of them for several years, and it's an honor to be hanging on the wall with them.
One thing that was probably of interest to me was all the people that were inducted. I not all of them I knew, but I knew of a great percent of them. I think it's a great honor that the people that are inducted in the southeast corner of Arizona have a lot of history.
How it has been run, not as a popularity contest, not as a beauty contest, but as a means of recognition and honoring the old-timers or people that have been here for a long, long time with ranching as their primary occupation, or being a cowboy.
It was a great honor for me to be inducted into the Wilcox Cowboy Hall of Fame due to the fact of the people that had gone before me. Most every one of these people that are in the Wilcox Cowboy Hall of Fame were very successful at what they do.
I tell you what, I believe it's one hell of an honor to be selected for the Cowboy Hall of Fame. And this really surprised me when all this happened, because I never expected anything like it. Although my dad was in, but so be it, you know what I mean? But I figured it's probably the highest honor I've ever had.
I think it's a big honor because it's the people that choose you are your people that do the same thing you do. I think there was 23 people in this Hall of Fame that I either worked with or worked for. And I was damn proud to be around them, and I'm proud to be in this Hall of Fame.
I was inducted into the Cowboy Hall of Fame last year, and I'm proud of it. I've always wanted to be part of this and finally got there. I've lived here since 1971, and Wilcox has ended up to be my favorite town. I am proud of being part of this. Thank you.
It's an honor to be in the Cowboy Hall of Fame, and I take it seriously. I know there's a lot of people, a lot of guys that's better than I am, but I'm just honored. Thank you so much.
I'm proud to be part of the heritage of the Cowboy Hall of Fame. I'm glad we come here, and I would never go back to Montana. This is cowboy country here, and be acquainted and associated with all these ranchers, and it's been a great experience for me, and I've learned a lot from it.
Well, I think it's a great honor to be honored by your fellow people that is born and raised here. I was born and raised over in San Pedro Valley. I know practically everybody in Cochise County, and the fact that you get chosen, you know, to be one of them, I think it's quite an honor.
I feel very fortunate that I've got to be associated with and included in this bunch of people that are in this Hall of Fame. I have a lot of pride, and I've been here 60-some years since I got out of the Marine Corps, and this is home.
Well, it's a very prestigious place. I really appreciate it, and I think it's wonderful. I think there's a lot more of them around here should be. And it just builds you up, to say it.
What it really comes down to is the personal recognition for your way of life. In fact, most of your life is pretty reclusive because you're busy taking care of the cattle, the ranch, and the kids. To get up to a point in your life when you are nominated by your peers and elected by your peers into a honorary group such as the Cowboy Hall of Fame, it's quite an honor. And it's nice to know that your life has been recognized.
I've been very fortunate and very honored to be part of this organization and this group. Even more so, I'm feel very fortunate and lucky to be part of Wilcox, Arizona. It is a very unique area, a unique setting, and has so much history to it that it's been a real honor to me to have the great opportunity to live and raise our family in Wilcox, Arizona.
Some of the people involved that are here have been nominated and go back a long ways. And to have been acquainted with so many of them and worked with quite a few, it's just an honor to me, thinking about the quality of people that's there. In a way, I've lived the American dream.
What makes it really special is that it's been said that the roots run pretty deep in the Hall of Fame. My granddad was inducted in the Hall of Fame as one of the charter members. My dad was inducted into the Hall of Fame about 15 years later. It's pretty obvious how the roots do run very deep in the Hall. And I think, for the most part, I think people are just proud to be associated with the quality of people that are in the Hall of Fame. It kind of goes back to where, your handshake and your word is your bond, and these are the men and the women that indicate and make that happen. So,
for a person to be inducted into the Cowboy Hall of Fame recognizes the fact that you are one of the very few persons that have had the opportunity and the privilege of living the cowboy life in a cowboy culture. When you're able to go out and saddle up a horse and ride across these ridges and through these canyons and across these valleys, tending to your livestock and taking care of the land is a true blessing. I'm very grateful that I've been able to be one of those few people that have been able to lead this way of life.
A look back, 1988. George H.W. Bush was elected president. The Los Angeles Dodgers won the World Series. The Olympics were held in South Korea. Johnny Bell Bethel was the mayor of Wilcox. Alfalfa hay cost $92 a ton, and personal computers ran on a thing called a floppy disk. 1988 was the 6th edition of the Wilcox Cowboy Hall of Fame. B.A. Gardner, Boozer Page, and Lencho Hurtado were inducted. Let's meet them again. B.A. Gardner was born in 1897 in San Angelo, Texas. He came to Arizona as a very young child. His family moved to Wilcox, where B.A. and his siblings were raised and educated. He married Hattie Costner in 1921 and moved to Colorado to run a butcher shop. The couple returned to Wilcox in the 1930s and homesteaded a place just a few miles out of Wilcox, where they both lived until they passed away. B.A. was an avid horseman. He loved his racehorses and gamecocks. He played the fiddle quite well. Along with his wife Hattie playing the piano, they would entertain their family and friends until the wee hours of the morning without stopping, and loved every minute. Hattie passed away in 1978, and B.A. died in 1980. B.A. was loved by many who knew him and was always ready with a good story about his horses or his roosters. But most of all, he loved his friends and family to come and visit him and Hattie. The coffee pot was always on, and the fiddle just in reach. G.W. Boozer Page. Gordon Winfield Boozer Page was born in 1889, and the family moved to Tombstone in 1893, where Boozer's father was the local judge. When Boozer was 12, the family moved back to Wilcox. Boozer owned several ranches all around Wilcox, and he and his brother-in-law, Tab Meisenheimer, brokered most all of the cattle that shipped in and out of the Wilcox railhead. Boozer had a dry wit and a wry sense of humor. He was full of stories about the Wild West. He was a very good team roper and liked to match rope. Boozer Page died in 1968 at the age of 80. Lencho Hurtado. Lencho was born in 1886 Dos Cabezas, Arizona. He helped his father as a carpenter, but his interests were in cattle and ranching. In 1903, he registered the F-Bar-H brand when he was 17 years old. In 1910, he married Trinidad Pacheco, and they had 5 children. Lencho had nearly 300 cows running on the open range, but he began to homestead in the Dos Cabezas area. When others moved out, Lencho was buying their property. He worked to improve his cattle herd and was very conscious about the dangers of overgrazing. Lencho's entire life was dedicated to being a rancher, a cattleman, and a good citizen for his community. Lencho died in 1967.
He was very good with his grandchildren. We used to go to the auction every every Thursday with him. We got to go to the auction. We got to go eat lunch. We always thought, my sister and I always thought that was great. He never bought anything, but he always went. He taught us many things.
Becoming a member of the Wilcox Cowboy Hall of Fame is a special recognition bestowed on very few. There are currently 6 women that have been voted by their peers to be inducted into the Wilcox Cowboy Hall of Fame, and tonight we pay tribute to these pioneers with a look back. Terry McNair Burgess was inducted in 2010. Terry Burgess grew up riding horses and working cattle on the side of a mountain. Raised in Aravaipa Canyon and cowboying in the Galura Wilderness, everything was done horseback.
It was a wonderful place to grow up. Didn't have a lot of outside entertainment. You made your own. We did everything horseback. We didn't even own a trailer. It was such rough country, and with the creek and everything, if you had to go work a bunch of cattle, you rode and you worked them and you rode home. So most of the ranch was in the Galura Wilderness, packing horses, and you went in the back country. You not only packed what you were going to eat and your bedroll and everything, they had a cabin in there, you had to pack your horse feed. So, you know, it was nothing to go in there, 5, 6 head of pack horses.
Whether roping outside to doctor cattle or roping in the arena, Terry could get it done. Peggy Manzingo was inducted in 2005. Peggy Manzingo may have been born a city girl, but no one has ever questioned her love of cattle, her love of the land, or her unbridled passion for the cattle industry.
Well, she was involved at the ranch for more than 60 years. She'd done everything from dig post holes to chop ice, and been involved with every facet of the associations, and was very passionate about her belief in the industry.
In 1984, Peggy and her husband, Ed, established the Z.R. Hereford Ranch outside of Benson. With their son, Ed Allen, they have worked to raise the best quality beef on the best natural resources they can care for. Peggy has been described as a blend of the old and new West. Josephine Lawhon was inducted in the year 2000. Life began for Josephine Lawhon in 1908 at the HYL Ranch House, which is tucked behind the mouth of Apache Pass, just a little southeast of Bowie, Arizona. Other than being away from the ranch for school, she spent most of her life on the family ranch. She was a working cowgirl. She would be up at 3 a.m. to go feed the horses, be back in the house to help Mom with breakfast, then make her lunch of sourdough biscuits and salt pork, and then pull out just before daylight. Josie and her dad covered miles and miles of country, checking cattle and waters. Sometimes they would cover 40 miles and get back to the ranch just before dark.
And I used to ride my horse with my father. We had quite a large ranch. We lived within 6 miles of San Simon. And we went over into the Sulphur Springs Valley too. So there was no boy in the family, so I was the cowboy for my dad.
A Wilcox cowboy named Herman Tuck said, "Miss Lawhorn makes a real hand. She's the only woman I ever saw rope and work cattle good as a man." Lillian Erickson Riggs was inducted in 1995. Lillian was born at the Fort Bowie Hospital, Arizona Territory, in 1888 to Swedish homesteaders. Lillian embraced life to the fullest. She grew up in the Bonita Canyon and developed what would become the Faraway Ranch, first with her sister Hildegard and then with her husband Ed Riggs. Lillian had the reputation of being aggressive and energetic and forward-thinking and somewhat of a liberated young woman. She struggled with the loss of hearing and sight, but rode and took care of her cattle just the same. Sabina Larson was inducted in 1989. Sabina Larson was considered by some to be a ranch baroness. She led an active life while living in Wilcox. Along with being a charter member of the Wilcox Cowbells, she was also secretary-treasurer for the American National Cowbells. She was a charter member of the Hospital Auxiliary. She also served as president of the Garden Club and was a member of a sorority. She said, "I went to 2 or 3 meetings a day." Sabina said, "It's been a good, wholesome life. There's been good times and bad times. We laughed a lot. I've enjoyed it." Mila Warren was inducted in 1985. Mila was born September 11, 1880. She came to Wilcox at the age of 4 with her parents, Thomas and Maggie Allaire, and her brother and sister. They came from Warrington Junction, Virginia. They lived in the Kansas settlement, 17 miles southwest of Wilcox, in a 2-story fortress-like adobe house with double thick walls. When she was a girl, she rode on the wings of Firefly. Horses meant more to her than anything. She was really an outside girl. In the spring of 1917, Mila took up ranching on the ranch that her father owned. She borrowed money from the Wilcox Bank and Trust Company. It was years later the banker, Dana Milner, said, "I loaned that lady money when I didn't think there was a chance in the world that she would pay it back. And you know, she paid back every penny of it."
But she was extremely hard-working ranch woman. She pretty much had the responsibility of raising her family, 7 children living, and by herself. And she did all of the cooking and the cleaning and the cattle raising and driving the buggy to Wilcox from the Kansas settlement and getting feed and groceries and going home, and then doing what she needed to do home with no support system at home other than her 2 oldest boys, Tom and Henry. So she was an extremely hard-working, very honest, very kind and sensitive woman.
I was asked to talk a little bit about the women that are in the Cowboy Hall of Fame. Man, I'll tell you, they were tough. They were tough. They had to be. They knew that when they married into a ranching family, that the cows came first. They had to. There was no food on the table. There was no new mattress. There was no painting the house without the cows. So if the spring was drying up and the spring fed the house and fed the cows got the water. And that's just the way it was. And the women, they made a home with what they had. They raised their family. They made sure that their children were educated in church groups. And yet they would go out and be horseback with the men, working the cattle, caring for the cattle. They would work in the corrals, running the gate. They did the books. And so I would like to see more women inducted into the Hall of Fame. They're out there, and I think that that is something that as we vote for new members, if the women are qualified, I'd like to see them in there.
Pretend that's John Wayne. All right. Welcome, everybody. If you just now joined us out there in Facebook land, this is the Arizona Gives Day, the Wilcox Theater and Arts version. We're raising money for this little nonprofit organization here in Wilcox. I think we have a fundraising total as of this moment. So where are we?
Oh, it looked like $974. So almost to our 1,000 matching funds.
So that's almost a $2,000 morning for us. So we're really pleased with that. Thank you, everybody. How can they give now? Remind me.
So online, the wilcoxtheater.com, there's a link, or go to the website. There is a link to click to donate. You can use your credit card there or other probably electronic methods, but you can also come down to the theater. We accept credit cards, cash, or checks. So we've had some visitors this morning. Really appreciate that. And come down, come see us.
It's kind of interesting when these guys, when they walk in, and to give personally here, there's a lot of energy in the building. As everybody's got stories to talk about the good old days and what they remember about the theater.
Right.
I want to go over just real briefly what's going on upcoming, and we've almost forgot about it, but there is a film festival actually coming up this weekend.
Yeah.
I think Ralph Score is the leader of that, and he's just a local volunteer. So I want to give a shout out to all the volunteers that come. There's volunteers that help run the theater during the showing of the movies. And
$1,001.
All right, we've crossed our $1,000, so now we've matched that, so we've raised $2,001.
Excellent.
Good job. We've got about 4 or 5 more minutes before we cut away. But let me go back, and we have the film festival coming up this weekend. Then we have the Wham Festival that's coming up June 1st. Those are probably the next 2 biggest things that are going to happen. Again, just a reminder, the theater is more than just movies. Remind me, do you have some memories of coming to the theater?
I do. So I grew up in the Dragoon area and went to Benson, but it was a big deal to come over to Wilcox, and one of the biggest things was coming over to see a movie. So that's always a good memory. And then as I got to where I could drive, I'd come over to Wilcox. So the theater was always a good memory. It was kind of the place to be. You know, dates are always popular. Movies always going to be a great idea for a first date. And if you haven't been down, there's been lots of improvements since back in the day. And it's really pleasant and nice, and the seats are upgraded, and they just do it right and remodeled it, and it's just a great place to be.
Yeah, it's a good experience if you want to watch a movie. And I think as parents that are out there that have got some teenagers that are in that newly dating scene, what a cool thing. But then there's that next generation of people that just have a date night. This is a great place to go. And when you think about it, I think we're the only movie theater in Cochise County other than Sierra Vista. But we're a town of 3,500 people, and we're showing first-run movies. My gosh, what's playing now? Something about Godzilla and
versus Kong, yeah.
Versus Kong. Understand, if you want to come see that there's a little more emphasis on Godzilla.
Right.
So if you're a Godzilla fan, he wins. So come on down and watch that.
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. Oh, I wasn't supposed to say that. All right. And then the other one that's playing is what? Ghost?
Ghostbusters is playing.
Yeah, all right, cool. So obviously those are the movie sides of things. We've tried to talk a lot about the other things going on, 36 different programs, you know, run by a pretty small staff and a whole lot of volunteers to make this happen. I want to give a shout out to our people that were manning the phones and calling people literally all over the United States. If you're grew up here and you remember, you know, we've had people make donations from Phoenix area. We've called people in Tennessee. We've had a few interesting comments.
Yes.
There's so many things going on in the donation world, so many scams out there on the phone. Some people are skeptical, but just know this is a real deal.
Yes.
It's a good place to be. All right. Well, what's our final money total?
1,001. Looks like to be.
$1,001 raised and $1,000 to match that. So
Yep.
we've raised $2,000. What we're going to do now, we're going to cut away and let you go back to work. Let our volunteers do whatever they need to do. Then we will be back at 4 o'clock and we'll do some updated live interviews then. You can come down to the theater all day long. There will be people here to accept your donations. A lot of the phone calls that we've been making, the notes say, I will be down in person. I will be there after a little while. So
That's
come
good.
on down. You don't have to wait till 4 o'clock to do that. And with that, do you have anything else you'd like to
No,
add?
thank you for your donations so far. Not a bad morning.
Not a bad morning. So, and everybody have a great day. And remember, Wilcox Theater and Arts is a good place to support for our community. Wilcox is a community with a big heart. So we thank you very much. We're done?